Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. This is also broadcasted live in YouTube and Facebook. We will be starting in a couple of minutes. Uh, okay, so we can start maybe. And if you have any questions, we want to have an interactive session rather. So if you are seeing this in Facebook or YouTube, you can put a comment there if you want to uh, join the interaction. And if you are, of course, in Google Meet, then you can just unmute yourself and speak whenever you want to. Uh, in this particular session, we intend to discuss certain tools that parents can use to help their children. Uh, when you talk about mathematics, usually it comes in many cases it comes with fear. People don't say that they're afraid of music or they don't say they're afraid of literature, but we often hear that people say that they're afraid of mathematics. It's an unfortunate thing, it's a cultural thing, I guess, but it has happened. um, it need not be so. In this particular discussion, we will talk about a few tools, uh, starting with the following one. You see that instead of actually telling you what is the background of that particular tool, uh, we will directly go ahead and use the tool in this discussion right away. Uh, in this particular tool is known as Kendaku. Maybe you have seen this thing somewhere. It does look a lot like Sudoku. It's not exactly Sudoku. I'll tell you what it is. It's in this particular case, this is a 4x4 grid. So there are four columns and there are four rows, and it's like a little game that you can immediately start playing. It's like a little game that you can immediately start playing with your child, or you can ask them to play at their home. That's fine as well. Okay, more people are joining. And main goal, the main goal of using such a game, the main goal of using such a game is to prepare the mind of the child to start working toward mathematics. It's like setting the ground. It's very important. In fact, if you think about it, when you send a particular child to a mathematics class, they go to the class, they immediately start working on problems. They use their reasoning abilities and start working on problems. But possibly before going to the mathematics class, they were doing something really different. Maybe they were learning history, where they were consuming information, or maybe they were learning geography or some social sciences or some other certain things like physics, maybe laws of physics. They were learning certain things like that. which did not need them to use their reasoning abilities. Mathematics is very different in that sense. In mathematics, you have to actively use your reasoning abilities. And when they go to the math class, they do not have a warm up for such a thing to happen. They immediately go and start solving problems or maybe learning something. So we have used this tool a lot in our mathematics Olympiad classes at Chinta, and this has been extremely successful. Students immediately start communicating with each other. Now, I'll give you a taste of what could happen. But before even I do that, let me tell you that you should spend 5 to 10 minutes at most on this tool, not more than that. And then they can do it on their own or they can just have fun later. So, how does this work? Well, there are 4 columns and there are 4 rows like this. So you are allowed to use the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's it. Only those 4 numbers. You cannot repeat a number in a row. For example, you cannot have 1 and 1. That cannot happen. And you cannot repeat a number in a column. You cannot repeat a number in a row. You cannot repeat a number in a column. Those are the conditions. But there is an additional condition that's extremely crucial. It's about the cages. See, for example, this particular box, there is a thick line around that box. There's a thick line around that box. And there is a little number 4 and division, 4 and division that is written at the top left corner of that box. Now, here is where the fun begins. You have to satisfy that condition. So, for example, in this particular case, you have to use 2 numbers, which when divided gives 4. So, this number is sometimes called the target number. The target number. Using this target operation is division, and you have to use the numbers in this particular cage. The thick lined box is called a cage. So this is a cage. And using these 4 numbers, you have to reach this particular target number. 2 of those 4 numbers, you have to use that particular target number using that particular target operation. So, can anyone tell me which 2 numbers I should put in that particular cage? Anyone can respond actually. It's fine. I'm looking for some sort of an interaction. Can you tell me which 2 numbers I should put in these 2 spots so that I can get the number 4 by dividing these 2 numbers? And the only possible numbers, only allowed numbers are 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
2 and 4.
2 and 4. Okay, if I use 2 and 4, it would be 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I have not reached the target number of 4. Okay, someone else maybe? I think I have a response in Facebook. Yes, indeed. It's 4 and 1. Excellent. You see what just happened? 4 divided by 1 is 4, of course. and we use those two numbers to reach the target number of the cage. But wait, it could be also 1 and 4. We don't know which one it is. We don't know the order. The order, we will know about the order when we sort of solve the other cages. You see, immediately certain things are happening. There are certain fundamental reasoning tools in mathematics which are at play, and we have done this with kids of, I mean, 8 9 year old kids, maybe even younger ones, and sometimes even with older ones. It's like a game, and when the kids start playing it, each of them sort of give their own input. Okay, this can happen, that can happen, and so on. Okay, I'll tell you what kind of reasoning is going on when you try to play this game. See, in this particular cage, the target, this is very simple, the target number is 4, and there is only one box. The thick line is only around one box. So the only number that you can put there is 4. When you put 4, you immediately reach the target number. So it's very easy. But then you can conclude that you cannot put 4 here, because if you put 4 here, then there will be repetition in this particular row. Now, when you discuss this with your child, they learn a very powerful tool in mathematics known as casework. That's a very important problem solving tool that you, in the beginning, you do not know which particular case works, but then when you proceed along the solving, you can eliminate some of the previous cases. So in this case, we can eliminate 4, we can eliminate 4 and 1, and we can settle down on 1 and 4. We now know that this particular cage will have 1 and this one will have 4, because otherwise there would have been a repetition along this particular row. It's a very addictive game. If you give it to your children, uh, they, for the first 5 10 minutes, you say, okay, let's fill up that cage, let's fill up this cage, and they start doing it. They understand the rules in like 5 10 minutes of time. And once if someone is this is a kind of game that you would like to have a few people in the game actually. When some people play it for like 3 4 5 minutes, others also understand the rules more clearly. And the rules are really simple. You cannot repeat a number in this row, you cannot repeat a number in the column, and you have to reach the target number of the cage using the target operation. By the way, inside a cage, you can repeat a number, that's fine. For example, this cage is also very simple. It's a single numbered cage. So it's just 2 in here. The target number is 2, so you just put 2 in there. So that's it. So I would sort of ask you to try this out with your kids if you can. If you are in the WhatsApp group that we have created, we will post some of these games. You can just share it with your children, maybe once a day, and you will see that when you give them word problems, or if you give them other complicated stuff, they will say, okay, I don't know, I don't want to do it, or something like that. Sometimes they do that. But when you give them this particular game, they are learning the reasoning tools in mathematics, and they would actually like to do it. We have seen this in over and over again in the last few years of our training. We do this all the time. Okay, so that's the first tool that I wanted to discuss with you, and we will discuss 3 tools today. The first tool that we talked about is this one, which is prepare the mind. In fact, if there is an educator listening to this, I wanted to communicate that before starting a math class, if you have an activity like this, it rejuvenates the class immediately. It sort of helps them to prepare them, use their reasoning tools, because understand they were consuming information in all other classes. In mathematics class, they now have to apply reasoning. We must give them a little time and a little warm up session to get them prepared to do such a thing. It's a different type of activity, mental activity. So that's the first tool we had today. The second tool is the I call it the low tool meditation. So you see, these are these things are known as dinner table problems. Dinner table problems. So why do I call them dinner table problems? Well, the reason is this. Um, Mathematics is a sort of a cultural thing. Of course, if you are looking at just solving a bunch of problems, like say 20 similar looking problems using one formula, or learning a table, there is a multiplication table or something, there is nothing cultural about it. It's rote learning. That's not even mathematics. But what is mathematics is that you have to, when you demand that the child actually thinks creatively or applies the reasoning abilities, and so on and so forth. So, how can you motivate a child? Sit at the corner of a room and use one paper and one pencil and just keep on thinking about a problem for hours. Even little kids like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old kids. How can you inculcate that interest in a kid? And the there is no easy answer to that question. But one thing that often works is this particular tool, that is the tool of low tool problems. I'll tell you what it is. Many a times in mathematics, when you give a problem, a student has to know some sort of a formula, and then they have to mechanically apply the formula. Firstly, that's very boring. Someone has a formula, you tell the person, it's like dictatorship. You apply the formula and it will happen. So the young mind is not ready to accept such sort of a dictatorship. It's not even good for that mind. Instead, give them problems which do not require almost any formula. Hence, we call it low tool problem. The problems that do not require almost any formula, and yet they are complicated enough that they are challenging. What we have noticed over years of training of kids, that kids are not actually afraid of facing challenges. They do it all the time when they're playing video games, let's say. They are excited about challenges, that's fine. But what they are sort of taken off by are the extra things that they have to know before actually going into the challenge. So in Eastern Europe, for example, in Romania, in Hungary, in Russia, they develop this sort of problems These are called math circle problems sometimes, which do not require a lot of formulas and lets the child immediately fall into the activity of thinking. They do not have to worry, do I know this formula, do I know that formula? They know that, okay, I don't need to know a bunch of formulas. I can immediately start applying my reasoning abilities, and now let's go on to that adventure. So it's a very powerful tool, and I call it meditation, because after all, when a child is sitting at a part of a room with a pen and paper and focusing on a single problem for hours, what is it? It is meditation, of course. So let's look at this particular problem. It looks very, I put it here because it kind of has a picture in it. Pictures always help, I guess. So I won't go into the exact problem with all of you. Maybe you have read it already, it's in the board. But I will share it in the WhatsApp group. If you are not in the WhatsApp group, let me know in the chat. I will add you there, uh, give you the official number. You can get yourself added there, so that we can share with you problems like this. And once you have problems like this, you can actually test it out at your home. And it doesn't need to be a very formal thing. You can just go around and have a, hey, I encountered this problem, have a look. That's it. If they are interested, they will have a look, and so on and so forth. You don't need to impose anything. It doesn't work that way. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about the next. So this was the second tool, the low tool meditation, that I uh, mentioned. And finally, we will go to the last segment of the class, which is absolutely fantastic. It's probably the one of the most important tools at our disposal. It's called From the Masters. So if you have a child who is a professional, who is trying to be a professional musician, one of the things that you will hear from the music teacher is that, okay, of course, you have to practice a lot, but you also have to listen to other people playing great music. You learn a lot by listening to the masters. That's absolutely true for almost any form of art or science. You learn a lot from listening. So in India, we call it Gurumukhi. So you learn from the masters, you learn from the real people. Unfortunately, it's very hard to actually meet such people in the real world. Some, of course, there are many teachers all around us, but when I say masters, I'm not actually referring to teachers. I'm referring to those, let's say, researchers who have thought about mathematics a lot and then wrote about it or spoke about it. One example in this particular case is Hilbert. Hilbert was one of the greatest mathematicians of all times, if I may say so, from Germany. And this particular book, called Geometry and the Imagination, I think um, all the children who are interested in mathematics should read it. It's very inspiring when you read work of real masters. And I think as students, we mostly want to be inspired, not instructed. That is particularly true in this today's world of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and whatnot, where consumption of information is becoming more and more free styled. So, uh, I will share some of such resources with you. One of the resources is this involute of a circle. It's a very beautiful, you can read what it is written on the board while I speak. Involute of a circle, it's a very beautiful construction, and Hilbert wrote about it in equally beautiful terms in his book. There is a screenshot from his book in this particular slide. What we do in the From the Masters section is we actually discuss passages or portions of such books in our classes. You know, the reason is this, that once a student is self motivated and intrigued by the beauty of what the masters have to say, we don't have, as teachers, we don't really have to do much work. They are self motivated and then they start exploring on their own. So that is indeed the third thing, and I will share this screenshot in the um, in the WhatsApp group as well. So that was the third tool from the masters. So uh, these are the three tools I wanted to share with you guys. Uh, Prepare the mind, low tool meditation, and from the masters. I could have introduced myself at the beginning, but I didn't want to waste time. My name is Oshani Dashgupta. I'm a faculty at Chinta. We train students in mathematical Olympiads and data science and artificial intelligence and all beautiful such subjects, mainly through motivating problems. In that sense, it's kind of interesting. You can go to our website and check it out if you want. Um, in fact, there are three programs that there are several programs out there that we have, but these three are really quite close to my heart. There's a curiosity program where we meet once a week children and help them be curious about mathematics using these sort of tools. And then there are American Math Competition and Math Counts program. And then there are projects in data science and artificial intelligence that kids do all the time with us. So now I will open the floor for questions. In YouTube or Facebook, you can type in the questions. And in Google Meet, if you have a question, you can just unmute yourself. And I'll be very happy to respond to any questions that you may have. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I have a question coming in the private chat in Facebook that yeah, you can join our I will send out the WhatsApp group information to you privately, and you can join that, and we will share all these resources in the WhatsApp group as well. Yes, of course. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I think that is all. Thank you all for tuning in. I will see you in the next seminar. We intend to make such seminars every month to help parents and keep the interaction going. We'll share some more tools next time. Good night to all of you who are on the other side of the pond, and good day to the people in India. Take care. Bye.